I will now call the May 20th, 2013 Blue Springs City Council meeting to order. Tonight is our Assistant City Clerk, Kelly Sykes' first night doing it solo. So we want to welcome you doing that tonight. And before we stand and observe a moment of silence, our thoughts and prayers should be for the people in metropolitan Oklahoma City, for the tornado that went through there this afternoon and the devastation that it caused. They're still waiting and trying to figure out how many lives may have been lost and the other tragedy, neighborhoods destroyed. So he said it was reminiscent of May 1999 when a tornado went through Oklahoma City. And ironically, Eloise and I were down there when that happened in 1999. It was a christening trip for my big red truck. And it survived it without any damage, which I was concerned about. And Eloise will tell you the story. For the first time in life, she saw me go in the bathroom and get in a tub just to try to protect myself. So it was scary. It really was scary. So anyway, let's stand, observe a moment of silence, and then we'll have a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. I want to welcome those of you in attendance as well as those that might be watching on cable TV 7 to tonight's council meeting. The next item is the consent agenda. There are items that need to be pulled. If not, I accept a motion for approval.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Quibell?
Aye.
Councilman Levacy? Councilman Fowler?
Aye.
Councilman Carter?
Aye.
Councilman Edmondson?
Aye.
Councilman Culpepper? Aye. Carried unanimously.
Next, we have a presentation by the Chamber Leadership Class. And I understand the spokesman for tonight will be Sergeant Stacy Edwards. Would you come forward, and you're going to bring the other crew up with you and introduce them, or you're going to let them introduce themselves and do the presentation. Sergeant, welcome.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor Ross and honorable council members. Thank you, first of all, for supporting this program, this leadership program. Chamber President Laura Vermillion gave me the opportunity to present the 2012-2013 leadership class. This is the 18th class to graduate the Chamber program. And as you know, the purpose of this program is to develop a pool of leaders from our community to help foster growth and development within our community. This class has been very diligent, and they've worked very hard to learn about the community and how important it is to have partnerships throughout the community. And they will graduate on June 13th at the Chamber Luncheon, which you all are invited to. And at that time, they'll receive their certificate, and they'll tell you a little bit more about the class project that they completed, which was a requirement of the class and the leadership program. But at this point, I'm going to pass the microphone around and let each one of them introduce themselves and tell you where they work and their position. And then Shelley's also going to start it off and tell us a little bit about the We Bus program that they sponsored.
You probably already know that the We Bus was started by Catherine Barton with the Women Endowing Education, and it's a bus that's supposed to travel through the community, offer resources for our students and parents, community members with homework help, job resources, and I think the idea is to hopefully be able to put health resources in there as well. So as a group, we felt it was really important to help them financially, so we had a bowling tournament. Gary Cobb at Lunar Bowl was kind enough to give us the bowling alley for an afternoon. We raised somewhere in between $4,500 and $5,000 for the We Bus. Had a great afternoon, 3 hours of bowling, lots of fantastic items that we had raffled off. So very successful event. My name is Shelley Brown. I work for the Blue Springs School District. I'm one of the assistant principals at Blue Springs South High School.
Hi, I'm Kelly Logan. I'm with Job One. It was formerly IBS Industries, and I'm the Vice President of Human Resources.
I am Karen Van Winkle with the City of Blue Springs Finance Director.
I'm Denise Phillip. I work for First American Title as a senior escrow officer.
Hello, I'm Renee Keel with Metcalf Bank Branch Manager of Blue Springs South.
Joe Fenner with the Blue Springs Police Department Investigations Unit.
Hi, I'm Wendell Fumano, Assistant Principal, Blue Springs High School here in the Blue Springs School District.
I'm Mike Peterman, City of Blue Springs Principal Planner.
And also Dancing with the Stars champion. And let me close just by saying again, thank you for your support of the program. This class has worked extremely hard. They've been so dedicated to the class and then the project that they chose. We're very, very proud of them. And if you all are going to come down at this time for a class photo.
Let's do it.
All right, 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Got it.
Anyway, thank you so much and congratulations. Thank you. All right.
Your Honor, if I may,
Yes.
it's kind of scary. I went through class 2 of that group.
Class 2, that was in when?
We won't say.
Oh. I'm glad to see them progress to the level that they are today. So thank you for being one of the pioneers in this, and it certainly is something that deserves our appreciation because it does give them opportunity to find out what's going on in the community, see how government works as well as other entities within the community. And again, I think that's why Blue Springs is such a great community, because you have a lot of partners working together for the good of the community. And that kind of stands out. I think we set the standards for doing that, and I think with the community survey, that kind of proves that we're doing something right. But we can't do anything right unless we have people engaged, and I think the leadership program certainly helped develop that. So thank you so much, Laura, and the Chamber, and all the participants that have been engaged in it. That brings us to discussion of CDBG.
Right, thank you, Your Honor, members of the council. And speaking of working in partnership and building the community, that's the goal behind the community development block grant funds that the city is entitled to each year. This is round 2 of our discussions for the types of projects to allocate our approximately $200,000 that we're looking at receiving here October 1 of this year. And as part of that, we do need to put together an annual action plan. That is, this second public meeting is part of that process. We look forward to having approximately 2 more before we send our draft annual action plan to HUD by August 15th. So with that, hopefully everyone had an opportunity to look at kind of the initial preliminary list of some possible projects and programs. You can see on the list, and before I do that, page 2 of the council information form, actually beginning at the bottom of page 1, talks about some of the different projects with recent funds that are underway or have just been recently completed. For example, the Vesper Street sidewalk was recently finished between 10th Street and 7 Highway. Hopefully everyone had an opportunity to at least see that, if not walk on it as well. We knew that we'd get quite a bit of use out of the Friendship Manor residents, but I have seen folks that clearly do not live there utilizing the sidewalk as well, but certainly must be living or at least visiting in the neighborhoods surrounding the area that we're in right now. Sidewalk on 10th Street, which has been a long time in planning, from Vesper to Artie Mize, so kind of connecting the last piece north and south up to 10th, up to Artie Mize from Vesper, is in the works. The Public Works Department is going through the surveying and design process. There are some right-of-way issues that need to be overcome with that, and now that Vesper sidewalk is done, more time and attention can be placed upon that 10th Street final piece. Just kind of hopping around here with the different bullet points. The other one that's currently being formulated in terms of getting some initial estimates, as well as putting together kind of the framework of the plan, of the program, is the Downtown Facade Improvement Program, and where staff is in the process of working with America's Community Bank to put that program together and get them as the first participant out of the gate here yet this year. So moving back to the list of 6 items, that's the first one on the list is again, just an initial recommendation just to consider extending that program for other downtown businesses next year at a level, again, just throwing out a number of 50,000. Parks projects, working with Dennis Stovall in the Parks Department. Anyone's familiar with, I do have to show this off because it's such a fine document. This is the park maintenance assessment that Dennis, his department put together just a few short months ago, assessing maintenance needs of every developed city park. As you know, one of the first projects that we undertook back in 2006 with some of the CDBG funds was to install some new accessible and upgraded modern playground equipment at Blue Springs Park. As a neighborhood park, again, it primarily is utilized by the surrounding neighborhoods, which qualified as low to moderate income per our census, boundaries. And that's another, that park itself is on the list here for some much needed improvements and maintenance, and one of those being related directly to that playground itself, looking at improving the actual ground around the playground, the surface there, the playing surface. If you recall, back when the school district presented their bond issue earlier this spring, they talked about some of the kind of these, I'll say futuristic, for lack of a better term, futuristic playground surfaces they're looking at putting into their elementary schools, and the great costs that's associated with that. That's what we'd be looking at here with Blue Springs Park. 50,000 is just kind of a starting point for that. It very well will cost more than that, but that's, again, something for consideration here. The 2 programs beyond that, 3 and 4, list minor home repair program, looking at 60,000, which is going to kind of maintain what we've been doing the last few years. We kind of had a little bit of roller coaster in terms of funding. Weren't really sure what to fund that program at the first few years, but now we've kind of settled down around 60,000. We're kind of around 60,000 to 75,000, dipped down to 50,000, but this kind of keeps it at a steady level. The same with the first-time homebuyers program. We have 3 years. This is our 3rd year now in that program, and 39,000 can provide funding for up to 13 applicants. And I just signed off, and Mike Peterman's here as well to help with that. If you have any questions on that, we just signed off on the last of those today. So that money's already spoken for this year. So that's certainly something to consider as we move forward. And just a little background on that, we just kind of looked at some of the numbers. We're kind of curious to know, a lot of the folks, like renters in Blue Springs, are they coming from outside the community? 18 only of the 39 approved applications the last 3 years are from Blue Springs. So we're bringing in more than half of the folks who've applied are from outside the city. So that's interesting to know. Again, generally from around the area, but certainly not just from Blue Springs. I know it was kind of a thought. We weren't sure what kind of grouping we'd get out of that, but it's about half, a little bit less than half from Blue Springs, the other half from like Lake Lotawana, Raytown, Independence, Olathe even, Green Valley, Grandview, and Lee Summit. So kind of immediate area and beyond coming here as new residents to the city of Blue Springs. So exciting to see a lot of progress with a lot of these. Minor home repair program, we're seeing a lot more of those who are going through the code enforcement process, applying for that and being eligible for that. That's not always the case, but we're seeing some pretty good movement with that. Lauren Gowdy, our associate planner in the office, handles that. And then the last two items here talk about Downtown Alive. This is first year that we provided $5,000 to operate kind of program expenses for that group, and then our own administrative funds, we look at about 3% of the total is what we kind of landed on, just to help maintain a lot of the paperwork that goes along with this. So I'll stop talking and open it up for any discussion, comments on what we provided here this evening.
Any questions or comments? Councilman Fowler?
Yes, Your Honor. Director Allen, the $50,000 for the downtown facade grant program, that was also in there last year?
Yes.
Okay, for another $50,000?
It was for $100,000, I believe, this current year. And so with the parks projects coming up with this new kind of priority book here, we looked at trying to split some of that money off. Again, that was kind of the cornerstone of the downtown in terms of a large, with two facades, both on 11th Street and on Main Street. The rest, I think, would be a little bit smaller projects, actually being able to get more than just one, even with $50,000. So we're looking at possibly getting applicants for some of the smaller facades along Main Street. So in other words, the $100,000 was for a big project. The first one out of the chute is probably the biggest one we'll see.
Okay, and that has not been accomplished yet?
No, we're in the process. The owner's getting estimates, and we're working with them and putting the program together. So we're kind of building this from scratch. Kind of we did with the minor home repair program. It took us a few years to kind of get our legs underneath us to figure out how to build that program and fund it properly.
Right. For the minor home repair program, for the first-time buyer's home program, that's taking federal money out of HUD, and one of the requirements that they have is that it go to low to moderate income families.
Right, or it impact low to moderate income families and neighborhoods, yes.
Right. But then when it comes to providing, we've also invested a lot of that money into public infrastructure over time, but when it comes to investing into private business, the same low to moderate income rule doesn't apply then.
No, it's a very good point in terms of how it affects, I guess, the geographic area versus actually individual families. And I don't know, Mike, you want to respond to that as well?
Absolutely. The downtown is smack dab in the middle of our low to moderate income census tract. Therefore, by putting infrastructure, including sidewalks and streetlights, facade improvements into our middle of that neighborhood, it brings the whole neighborhood up.
And so that's benefiting low-income families?
Absolutely it is. It's
how's that?
Well, if you bring the bottom up, then everything else rises.
When you say bring the bottom up, what does that mean?
Well, if property values are lagging and stagnant,
Is
very
there
low,
some
and then-
low-income families that may not have property to increase in value?
If the low-income neighborhood, which extends from generally the railroad tracks to Artie Mize, if that whole neighborhood is brought up, if people come back to that neighborhood and property values rise, then the whole neighborhood rises around you.
So some of the low-income families that rent, their rent may actually go up then as property values increase? Is that what I hear?
It could very well possible. Just the minor home repair program, there's only been probably 2 in the minor home repair program in this area.
In the downtown area?
In the downtown area, in that low mod census tract, that is an area benefit.
And again, the other areas, there are several areas, but I think I don't say it's unique, but because downtown is within the low mod area, it gives us a little bit additional, I guess, ability to fund some of the downtown projects. Again, there are some areas and some cities that their downtown may not be in a low mod area, so they don't have that capability to do things that are fairly unique. But I don't know if Mr. Johnson, you had something to add.
Your Honor, if I may jump in just for a minute here, just want to point out, staff is simply implementing the plan that was approved by the City Council. If the council chooses to reallocate or reprioritize where the funds are going to go, then we will adjust the implementation plan accordingly. The money being spent here on the Facade program, I certainly appreciate all the councilmen's comments on the merits of that program and where or how those funds may be allocated or used for other purposes. The consolidated plan that we have is approved by HUD.
Yes.
And so the expenditures for this particular item are required to meet HUD criteria.
Correct, and again, the downtown is
Irrespective of where the funds are being
yes,
spent.
downtown is a priority, redevelopment of downtown, and again, this could fit and does fit within that.
Yeah. So if the council wants to eliminate this altogether, that would be a policy discussion by the council. Staff's going to implement it.
Certainly.
We're simply implementing what's been approved in the current plan, and based upon the support this item got in the current year, are recommending a lesser amount. But it's a policy discussion for the city council.
Certainly.
Any other comments, questions?
Your Honor.
Councilman
Yes, Your
Correa,
Honor.
Then we'll come to you.
I wanted to just comment, Mike, if I understand what you're saying, if we apply money in the downtown area for improving sidewalks, improving facades, when you talk about it raising the boat, if we have a low-income family that lives in the area of downtown, they've got better sidewalks to walk on, the rents might go up, as Councilman Fowler suggested, but at the same time, the quality of the apartment they're in might be improved. So they're living, I remember when we did when they did the work down here at one of the apartment complexes just south of Mall at Fall Creek, meeting with some of the residents there and how excited they were to see the improvements that went into that low-income project and how it increased their quality of life by doing so. And so I just want to make sure that I understand what you're saying is by making these improvements in our downtown area, we're directly affecting the quality of life of low-income families in the downtown area.
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
Councilman Edmondson, and then Councilman Carter, whichever one will go first, it doesn't matter.
Well, I was just going to make the point that this is a matching program, and it's
Yes.
going to spur investment in downtown. And to get the 50,000, the businesses are going to have to spend 50,000, right?
Correct. That's where we're fashioning it currently, yes.
Right. And that was the case with the 100,000 that we approved last year, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's the only point.
Okay.
Councilman Edmondson?
Well, I'm going to change subjects then, because I think this one's beat up enough. Parks project. We recently, District 2 had a town hall meeting, and one of the things that came out of that meeting was the fact that we didn't really have truly handicap accessible playground equipment. And I know Dennis is here, and I got an email back from you about what we were doing, but some of the requests have been made that possibly bringing in, swings that wheelchairs can actually get up on and make use of, that type of equipment. I know we've made it accessible to make use of those playgrounds, but some of the apparatus maybe could be improved, and I don't know whether if these kind of funds could be used for that, because I know we've used it before for playground equipment. It might be something in the future we might look at as try to look at that side of it and maybe pair off some funds that we actually could come back out and purchase some equipment that was truly handicap related and would benefit that community.
No, very good. That's certainly an option. And again, I should clarify that I was just throwing out the playground surface as an option, one that we are confident would be applicable for HUD funding. There's a whole book of projects, and handicap accessible playground equipment could be one of those. We just would need to we have to go through kind of the filtering process with HUD first, and hopefully have that before our next meeting or two here to give you some clear direction in terms of, okay, this they said is off the table, this is possible, and we'll get that in that list of things we'll look at.
Okay, cool.
Any other comments, questions?
Yes, Your
Councilman
Honor.
Fowler?
Yes, I have certainly supported using CDBG funds, HUD funds for public infrastructure improvements such as sidewalks, street lights, and improvements to the community. Certainly have supported it. HUD, in their statement, they want the community's written statement must give maximum feasible priority to activities which benefit low and moderate income persons. And I want to say that when we cross that line of investing into public infrastructure and start going into private, obviously I have no problem with minor home repair and first-time home buyers, That's given money to targeted to where the HUD has determined it should go. But when we do it for private business, I think that's a threshold that we should keep the bar high on. Those are profit-making businesses, and putting money dedicated to low and income families, diverting that to private property owned by businesses, that should be a very high threshold to meet.
Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Allen.
Thank you, and we look forward to being back here shortly.
That brings us to mayoral announcements. I didn't get a chance to publicly recognize a couple of people. Deputy City Administrator Todd Pelham for the award that he received at the Missouri City Managers Association as being one of the best, or being the best in the state of Missouri. So anyway, we want to congratulate you publicly on that. And also at that same conference, sitting to my left, our City Administrator Eric Johnson became president of the Missouri City Managers Association. So I want to congratulate him in that new responsibility, because I know what it entails, having been president of Missouri Municipal League. So, yes, but it makes us proud. So we're proud of both of you. Thank you so much. That brings us to mayoral announcements. Thoughts to ponder. Although nice thoughts to ponder, we have a holiday coming up next weekend, Memorial Day. And Congress passed legislation back in the late 90s establishing the National Moment of Remembrance Commission. Then Senator Chuck Hagel and now Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel was very instrumental involved in that, and I was asked to serve on that commission along with Michael Reagan and some other people, and served for a while. But the intent really brings it home, because most people think of Memorial Day as a time to have cookouts. That's when the pool is going to open. Some go visit loved ones and pay tribute to them in grave sites. But the main intent, and I'm going to read what President Clinton said when he signed it into law, I guess, and I quote, "As we contemplate the comforts and blessings of our lives and the well-being of our nation, I ask you to pause just for a moment to remember those who gave their lives to protect the values that gives meaning to our lives." The National Moment of Remembrance, and that's end quote, but the National Moment of Remembrance program was established to remind Americans of the sacrifices made by members of the armed forces, as well as others who have died as a result of service to this nation. Americans around the world should pause and remember these heroes in a symbolic act of unity. And the objective was to raise Americans' awareness of the honorable contribution made by those who died while defending our nation, and to encourage, and this is the main part, to encourage all Americans to honor those who died as a result of service to this nation by pausing for 1 minute at 3 p.m. local time on Memorial Day. And for those that are driving at 3, turn your headlights on. At a lot of your baseball stadiums, they will pause at 3 o'clock if they're playing. So this is something that we can all do as Americans to show and honor those who died for the freedoms that we enjoy in this great nation that we have. So I figured I'd share that with you tonight, because a lot of people don't know that. Mm-hmm. They have no idea. It's, hey, it's a day off, it's a holiday. Hey, we're going to go have fun. But it should be a solemn occasion as well. We can celebrate. There's nothing wrong with celebrating. But let's give credit where credit's due, and why we have the freedoms to do those things that we do in this great nation. That's all I have, but I have no visitors' appearance forms. There is no executive session. So the next order of business is adjournment, and to be followed by.
So moved.
That thing that we've all been waiting for is this public officials training. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye? Aye. All same sign? We adjourn.
Councilman Levesey make it to this training?